Hi everybody, DUGROZ here with DUGROZ Reports. Welcome to another episode of Frugal Points, the series where I drive in my car and talk to you about points and miles philosophy. Today's topic is Wells Fargo and what I think Wells Fargo should do. So I need to give a massive hat tip to Matt Clausen because he released a video a few days ago. I just got around to watching it this morning, where he said, "Where's Wells go?" or it was like a play on Where's Waldo, but it was Wells Fargo. I'm in the car, so I don't have it memorized. I'll put a picture on the screen here. And I'll link to that down below, so go find his video, because it inspired this video. So this is kind of sort of like a reaction video. Not quite, but close enough. What is Wells Fargo to do? Wells Fargo has had rumors that they're going to come out with like a Wells Fargo Autograph Beyond card or something like that for what feels like a year now, which will be their more premium card. Now, we don't know, is it going to go head-to-head with like the $400-ish range where it's competing with the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve, although that one's closed to new applicants, and the Capital One Venture X, or is it going to shoot for like the $695, $700, $1,000 range that both Chase and American Express are almost certainly headed for? One thing that Matt pointed out, which I had thought of but never in so much detail, is that they are in a pickle because they don't have a lot of transfer partners, and as far as the compelling transfer partners, they're not going to be getting them either. If you think about the three big airlines domestically in the U.S., you've got Delta, United, and American, and they're all locked into exclusivity agreements with other issuers. Delta with American Express, United with Chase, and American now with Citi, of course. So they probably can't have them as transfer partners, is my best guess. So then we look at the hotel side of things, and if you think about the four big hotel brands in the United States, at least the ones that are like compelling to those of us in the Points and Miles community for the most part, you've got Marriott, Hilton, IHG, and oh boy, Hyatt. I don't know why I almost had a brain fart there. So those four, Marriott, Hilton, IHG, and Hyatt, are also probably locked into exclusivity agreements with the credit cards that issue them, which is a combination of Chase and American Express. So I don't think they're going to be getting either of those. Now, some people will say, but Doug, Bilt was able to get Hilton and so forth. Bilt is viewed as a rewards program, not a credit card per se. Even though there is a Bilt credit card, if Bilt started their own bank, all those agreements suddenly go away, is my best guess. So there is the thought of like, well, Wells Fargo just needs to build on other transfer partners. And here's where I think we're kind of in a bubble in our community. The way we think isn't the way credit card issuers think or the way normal people think. I had said in a video a long time ago, there's maybe 10,000 of us in the entire country that are like true diehards in terms of min-maxing, that kind of stuff, who play arbitrage games and whatnot. There's not enough to be a credit card market. They don't design credit cards for us. And let's face it, some of the best features that exist in the world of points and miles are obscure things that don't work the way they're really supposed to. You know, like using Turkish to book a one-way trip to Hawaii for 10,000 points. That's not really a feature of any card. It's a hackability thing that works out in our favor in this particular situation. So with that in mind, if we take this line of reasoning a little further, little transfer partners that are outside the United States are not going to appeal to most Americans. And I'm going to give two anecdotes. One is, a few years ago, I don't remember if I bought a plane ticket for myself or my wife or both of us, but we were visiting my in-laws who live in Arizona. and they asked me what the flight was on, like which airline, just out of curiosity, and I said, oh, I booked it on British Airways. They almost didn't believe me. They were like, well, British Airways doesn't fly to Phoenix or Tucson, either one, so you're crazy, Doug. And I explained, no, it's like I used British points to book an American flight. And they were like, I'm just going to write down American. Give me the American flight number. I think it was even like a code share thing where, you know, you could have a British flight number or an American flight number and use it interchangeably. Because there was probably some British flight that came into Chicago or Dallas and then transited down to Phoenix. But it like blew their mind. They could not comprehend using British Airlines miles to book an American flight. Like, they thought I was probably making it up, or at least using some sort of stupid technicality that they didn't even want to consider. Another was, there was a fellow I know who was working for a non-profit organization in the Middle East, and he wanted advice on what credit card to open. And he said, well, I'm probably going to be flying Turkish Airlines the most. So when I showed him a list of like transfer partners, he really wanted the Citi Strata Premier card. And I was like, yeah, their customer service when you're overseas in Turkey or in Egypt or whatever is probably not going to be the best. So are you sure? He's like, yeah, I got to have Turkish. And I'm like, well, here's other ways you can book Turkish flights. And it just didn't absorb with him. I was trying to get him to do a CSP. Well, that's also a CSP. I was trying to get him a Chase Sapphire Preferred because I thought that would be a better fit in terms of a starting point customer service. But again, it was just too hard for him to absorb, like, well, if I'm going to fly on Turkish, I have to have Turkish miles. So, like, people think you use the miles of that program to book those flights. So, even if, you know, I believe Wells Fargo already has British, that doesn't do a lot for the American public. Even though we know you can book American, it doesn't do a lot for the traveling public. Maybe a few high-end businessmen, but not many. You know, if they get Royal Air Morocco, the average Joe or even upper middle-class person is going to think, well, I don't want to fly to Morocco, I fly within the United States. So they're kind of stuck. Now, they could make some incremental improvements, like Air Canada, for example, and that wouldn't be a perfect fit, but it would be a whole lot closer. And that would be, you know, a step in the right direction, because a lot more Americans go to Canada and they'll think like, oh, I fly to Canada occasionally, or, you know, I could connect in Toronto if I'm taking a trip to Europe or something like that. So I think that would be a better selling point, and there's probably a large number of people who would understand that, you know, I can use Air Canada to book United flights, but it's still not as good as the big three. It's not as good as the big four hotels. Windom would be a good step, because even though public perception is like, oh, Days Inn and Super 8s, at least they're in America and people have heard of it. It's like, oh, I might use that now and then. You know, there's a Wingate by Windom close to the airport in the town 2 hours away that I sometimes go to that's decent. I could use it for that. So I think Windom would be a good one for them to add. It's not going to be a major win. It would still be minor league, but at least it would be a step in the right direction. Especially if they could do something better than 1-to-1. Like 1-to-2 would be amazing, unlikely. 1-to-1.5 would be very cool. So I think, here's my kind of big conclusion. I think Wells Fargo should lean into the U.S. Bank and Bank of America model and just be cashback or cashback for travel cards. Don't eliminate your transfer partners, but think of it sort of like a side benefit. They need to have something like a travel eraser or a portal at 1.5, or at least 1.25 if they can't get up to 1.5. There's already some precedent to it, because the grandfathered Wells Fargo Signature Visa, which Philmo and I lovingly call the Golden Ponies card, has the feature of 1.5x for flights in the portal. And anecdotally, I've found that Wells Fargo's actually pretty fair with their portal. You can book Southwest in the portal, at least last I knew. I booked Delta flight to get us from Des Moines, Iowa, my hometown, to Washington, D.C. This coming summer. Excuse me, not Washington, D.C. New York City this coming summer. And it ended up being the best option, better than using points. So I think that would be a big selling point. Quite frankly, I think Wells Fargo could and should just imitate the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve. And now's a great time since it's grandfathered. I think for their Autograph Beyond, or whatever they decide to call it, I'll use that terminology from now on, just do exactly what U.S. Bank did with the Altitude Reserve. And maybe tweak it a little. Because they have transfer partners, I think they could get away with charging more. I think the hallmark of that card should be 3x on tap to pay. And I think they should have something like Realtime Rewards. Don't use that exact setup, it's clunky. Just use something like the Capital One Travel Eraser, where every time you book travel, just go into your account, click a few buttons, and erase that travel at 1.5 cents per point. You could put limits on it, like it has to be at least $100 worth of travel if you don't want people using it for Uber and Lyft, but I think they should let them use it for any amount, no matter how big or small. As long as it codes as travel, 1.5, you could say 1.25, maybe you can talk me into it, depending on the annual fee structure. And I'd be cool with that. Make the points interchangeable. So if you have a Aspire, Aspire's not the right word. If you have the business Signify, you can transfer points in. If you have the Attune, you can transfer points in. Maybe because Autograph, you can transfer points in. Maybe because of that, they have to limit it to 1.25 because, you know, earning 4x points on your Attune, then getting 1.5 with their travel eraser, which is functionally 6% cashback equivalent, is just unsustainable. Maybe. So maybe they have to limit it to 1.25. So your 4x Attune purchases become a 5% cashback equivalent. And then charge us an annual fee of, I'm making up numbers here. Right now it's $400 on the Altitude Reserve. Take it up to $500 and then give us an across the board $350 or $400 travel credit. It needs to be a broad travel credit where if I book one flight that's $400, I just get that. Don't make it some coupon-y book. I think that'll differentiate you. Give us good enough travel insurances. Like, you know, obviously it'll need to have primary CDL, collision damage liability. That should say collision damage waiver. That came out wrong. For rental cars, it doesn't have to necessarily have tippity top of the line travel insurance like the CSR does with emergency medical evacuation, those kind of things. But it needs to be at least as good as like the city cards. Probably should be a little bit better than that. And then give us a few priority pass access points. Maybe give us 10 of those a year, especially if they can be used on restaurants. And kind of pattern-wise, what we're seeing, you know, that seems like it might be the case because they don't have their own lounges. And I think that's what differentiates Wells Fargo. And then just stick with that. Honestly, if they did that, I think I would be totally loyal to Wells Fargo. I'm not saying they would get all of my spending because I still want to earn some Chase points for things like Hyatt, things like Air Canada with their pay yourself back feature. But I think they would really differentiate themselves if Wells Fargo just imitated the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve, charged a slightly higher annual fee, and just rolled with that. So let me know what your thoughts are. Put it in the comments down below. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, and click the thumbs up button. Consider becoming a DUGROZ Diehard. That's a channel member. It's only $3 a month. You can cancel anytime. You get early access to videos like this, and I have close to 50 members-only videos now. And as always, may your spending be frugal, and may your points be plenteous. Thanks.